Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Charging Smart informational webinar that we're here with IREC and City of Brighton.
Right.
Really excited to have you all here with us and have this conversation. We're going to go through some presentations, and from there, we're going to do some Q&A afterwards. So we do have some, just to kind of get everybody warmed up, we do have some questions for you right off the bat. So if you could put in chat, can we go to the next slide? In chat, add your name and affiliation. And then we'd love to hear in chat what you're hoping to learn from today's webinar. And if, I have a couple minutes here for warm up, if you will. And so if there's anyone who wants to come off mute and ask a question, to get us started as well, we can sort of put that in the question bank and or say hello. We'd love to hear from you. Any takers? All right. Well, afterwards we're gonna have some question and answers, hopefully, but at that point you'll be able to come off mute and ask those questions there. So my name is Bonnie Trowbridge. I am the Executive Director for Drive Clean Colorado. We are the organization that's working here in Colorado to manage the Charging Smart project. So we have an agenda today with these welcomes and introduction from me and from the other speakers. We'll have we'll go through Drive Clean Colorado and IREC and the City of Brighton will all speak, and then we'll have Q&A, as I mentioned before. So our speakers today are, I'm not actually speaking, I'm just moderating. Next slide, please. But we have Grace Tabor, who's our project lead for Drive Clean Colorado. We have Teresa Perry from IREC, which I keep mentioning, but their full name is the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. We have Tracy McLean from City of Brighton. And then, like I mentioned, I'm moderating today and really thrilled to be doing so. So again, welcome. And I'm going to turn this over to Grace Tabor to take it from here and explain about Drive Clean's role in the Charging Smart program.
Wonderful. Let me advance the slides here. I'm having some technical difficulties, so I apologize. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Grace Tabor, as Bonnie just mentioned. I am an infrastructure project coordinator here at Drive Clean Colorado, and Drive Clean Colorado, as Bonnie mentioned, is supporting the Charging Smart program that is led by the Interstate Renewable Energy Council throughout the state of Colorado. And my role is to serve as the lead technical assistance provider for local governments throughout the state of Colorado who are participating in or are interested in Charging Smart. So for some background, Drive Clean Colorado is a U.S. Department of Energy designated Clean Cities and Communities Coalition that is part of a network of over 80 unique coalitions that you can see here on the map across the U.S. We work locally throughout the state of Colorado to advance clean, efficient, affordable transportation and mobility systems, and we have a variety of access to tools and resources to help serve our stakeholders throughout the state. Drive Clean's mission encompasses the variety of work we do throughout our state, shown here on this slide. Drive Clean's mission is to empower diverse stakeholder collaboration to accelerate the equitable adoption of clean transportation. Upholding our mission really allows us to work towards clean air and sustainability within Colorado that is rooted in clean transportation, equity, and economic opportunity throughout the state. So with over 30 years of expertise in sustainable transportation and coalition building, Drive Clean Colorado supports a variety of initiatives, with one of those focusing on clean energy infrastructure. Through the work that we do at the community, state, and national level, we have quite a few goals we work towards and champion. A main goal of DCCs is to help guide and support the increase of access to vehicle charging in Colorado. As I'll mention in the next slide, Colorado has a large statewide goal pertaining to EVs, getting EVs on the road. And additionally, we'll work towards increasing the equity of accessibility of EV charging infrastructure throughout the state, especially those in underserved communities. And finally, a goal that encompasses all others here on the slide is to support the development of resilient and robust infrastructure to assist the Colorado clean energy transition. If you go entering the waiting room, so apologies to that. So within the state of Colorado specifically, there is a statewide goal to achieve 940,000 light-duty electric vehicles on the road by 2030. So as you can see on this graphic here, it shows that we're just about 1/7 of the way there, with 130,000 EVs on the road today. Additionally, there are combined 5,200 public ports throughout the state that can aid charging these vehicles for road use. So why are these facts important? As Teresa and Tracy will explain later on, the Charging Smart program will play a key role in developing the associated charging infrastructure that is needed to accomplish this statewide goal. Local governments who participate in the Charging Smart program can help progress the achievement of this goal by becoming more EV ready, to get ahead of the curve and be recognized for the work that you're already doing. Oops. So as for the Charging Smart program, which will be discussed in more detail later on, Drive Clean is supporting the implementation of this program at the municipal level throughout communities in Colorado. Charging Smart provides EV readiness planning and support from the technical assistance provider, so myself here in Colorado, for governments to implement best practices pertaining to EV readiness. So this program is currently in its pilot phase within Colorado and is adapted from IREC Soul Smart program, where communities earn recognition for being solar ready. As Charging Smart is still in the pilot phase, those who get involved early can gain early recognition of being an EV friendly and ready community and be one of the first to be recognized for their work at a national scale. As the lead technical assistance provider for Colorado, it is my role to help guide the local government on their path moving forward and to provide them with technical assistance. In total, Charging Smart will help facilitate technical assistance and designation of 60 EV smart communities throughout the US. And within that goal specifically, Drive Clean Colorado is looking to support 15 Colorado communities in receiving a designation as the founding Colorado cohort. So as you see here on this slide today, we have a call to action to join the founding Colorado cohort. So participating in Charging Smart now will allow you to be in this Colorado cohort for this program, along with a variety of other communities. Committing to this program today will allow you to be a trailblazer at both the state and the national level pertaining to EV readiness. And joining a cohort of local government peers will provide a multitude of benefits, such as serving as a support group for technical assistance, goal setting, peer learning, relationship building, and more to help achieve that Charging Smart designation. It's a great opportunity to get ahead of the curve, saving you both time and money, as well as earning recognition for the work that you're currently doing or aspire to do pertaining to EV readiness and sustainability. So how can you get involved in this program? Local governments, if you are interested in this program, consider signing the commitment today to receive access to participating in the Colorado cohort and to begin receiving technical assistance. And for those of you who are not a local government, there are still plenty of ways to get involved. Share this program with local governments you have a relationship with or hope to build a relationship with is a great start, as well as offering support to the local government as they work through and implement these EV readiness best practices is a great avenue as well. So with that, thank you all for listening to me talk today on Charging Smart and DCC's involvement with this program. My contact info is listed here, and I will turn it over to our next speaker, Teresa Perry from the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, who will go over some more details about the program.
Forgot to unmute. My apologies. Thank you, Grace. That was a great introduction to what you're doing in Colorado, and I am so excited to be here. There are so many great things happening in Colorado right now. I am with the Local Initiatives Program at the Interstate Renewable Energy Council, and prior to starting work on Charging Smart, I was with the Soul Smart program for a goodly number of years. And Colorado is just leading the way in SoulSmart designations. I looked at the list. I know there's a good number of you folks that have been through the program, so that's great. Including Englewood, I did find you are designated, and I think we've got that corrected on our website. So lots of folks have seen this before. We enjoy working with local governments to figure out what do you need to do in your planning and zoning. How do you make your permitting processes, whether it's solar or EV, better, stronger, and what you'll see a lot in this program, I think, emphasized even more than in SoulSmart, is an emphasis on how do you make sure that you're reaching all of the people in your community, and so that everybody has access. So lots to look at there. Why don't we go ahead to the next slide? Great. So Charging Smart, sorry, but I was on SoulSmart for almost 5 years. Charging Smart, it's free technical assistance to local governments. And I think that that is just a real win for communities for anything that they're looking for related to EV Smart. So it is free, provided in Colorado right now by Grace predominantly. So definitely connect with her. But you get your technical assistance, you submit your work that you've done, and you get certification or designation that shows that you have adopted the best practices that have been set out. So we do provide tools for communities to streamline planning, permitting, inspection. And just backing up a little bit, one thing we really took the last maybe year or so to do was decide what are those processes that local governments need to really get a handle on to participate fully in the EV transition. And so there are a group of experts, and we'll see those on future slides, who they are, who came together and made that advice. And I think that our criteria that we've developed are clear, they're concise, and they show local governments, here are the steps you need to take to really participate. So providing those tools for communities to streamline your planning, to look at your planning, will help you look at your planning, look at your permitting, look at how you're doing inspections, so that you can develop EV infrastructure. And again, we're modeled on the DOE funded SoulSmart program. So if you've done that program, it's very similar in the concept of, looking at what are the best practices, which ones suit the goals that your community has. Let's do these, and we'll get a designation. Go ahead to the next slide. So our partners for this initial phase, you can see the Interstate Renewable Energy Council is here, the Great Plains Institute, and the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. Those top three groups really did a lot of work on that initial, we need something to happen for EVs. We were looking at the Great Plains Institute and Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus were very involved also in the SoulSmart program. And we recognized early that what's happening with EVs is not similar enough to SoulSmart to just stick it into that program. So we've developed, that separate program. And Great Plains Institute and Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus developed pilot programs that have been working for a little while now. We've added the Clean Cities and Communities Coalitions to the group to add in the flavor of how do we work with communities. The Rocky Mountain Institute is also on there. They have been looking a lot at data for us and how communities can use that data to do their planning. So that's part of this program as well. The next slide, please. We have industry. I want to emphasize advisory partners. They're not just partners that we have a deployment agreement with. We don't have that. What they're doing is, as we spoke about, having the folks come together and say, what are the best practices that we need to consider in deploying EVs? We had industry partners also participate in that. So the Edison Electric Institute, EVgo, Tesla, and ChargePoint were part of that team. And the next slide. So looking at this, in 2016, we launched the SoulSmart program. We now have well over 500 local governments. And again, I know there's a good number in the audience right now. This says in 2021, IREC began working with the Great Plains Institute on a concept for Charging Smart. We really The ideas started as early as 2019. So it's been a while that we've been kind of incubating, making sure that this program addresses the needs that local governments have. In 2022, the Great Plains Institute and the Metropolitan Mayor's Council both launched their pilot programs in Minnesota, Michigan, Ohio, and then Northern Illinois. The Chicago area is where MMC is. In October of last year, we were awarded the Charging Smart award and got started on that, again, coming together to create those best practices for communities to adopt and move forward. We launched this current cohort in Virginia, Colorado, Texas, and California in March. And then we will launch another cohort of CCCs in July. And then in fall 2024, we're hoping to go national, subject to future funding. We have been awarded, but we don't have ink to paper yet. So the plan is fall 2024, assuming everything goes the way it's supposed to go. So I do want to point out a couple things. One is that if you do not have, if you're not in Colorado right now and you want to join the program, it will be coming along soon. So as I mentioned, we have these action categories. Where do we see the need for local governments to work and do their work? One is planning and really understanding where the needs are for electric charging, and how do you put the planning and zoning, those types of things in place. The regulations are similar, and then utility engagement falls into here. How do you work with utilities for interconnection? How do you work with utilities for savings plans? Often there's incentive programs that local governments can plug into, making sure that if you're putting in a large charging station, that there's going to be power available, et cetera. Education incentives for purchasing both the installation, both the charging infrastructure as well as incentives for buying EVs. We've got, best practices for that. Government operations, that's your permitting, inspection, that type of work. And then shared mobility, how do you electrify your fleets? How do you electrify your, your public transportation, et cetera. I think if you click one more time, we stay on this slide. Nope. Oh, there we go. You can see on this slide, EVs for All is what we're calling our equity work. So I think there was a question in the chat on equity, and really what we did here is, as opposed to having separate equity requirements, we have equity work that you can do for any criteria you're working on. So there are clearly stated ways that you can say, okay, I am putting in charging infrastructure in 3 spots in the city, and then making sure that in those 3 spots in the city, you considered who needs it. Are we addressing all populations? Have we gone to the community and asked, is this what you want, et cetera? That's very generalized, and I apologize for this. But EVs for All, you can see it throughout all of the different Charging Smart categories. Okay, go to the next slide. All right, you should recognize this structure if you've done Soul Smart, Bronze, Silver, Gold. Bronze is fairly basic, and I think the next slide shows you a little bit more detail on what's needed for Bronze, just to give you some flavor. But you can see that it's done some standardized EV charging permitting being one of the fastest ways you can increase the turnaround and deployment of charging infrastructure by having a speedy permitting system, zoning restrictions, collaboration with utility providers. So some basic steps for Bronze. For Silver, it gets there's a little bit more. You've completed fleet analysis, you've changed zoning requirements. So in Bronze, you just had to look at the zoning restrictions, identify any barriers you might have. In Silver, you're actually fixing them. In Gold, you're doing a lot more. You're adopting standard approval and review timelines. You're installing public chargers, et cetera. So it goes from the the basics, you know, kind of a entry level bronze up to gold right now. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So for this, this slide is just looking at bronze designation requirements. And if you look at the right-hand side, you see there's 80 general points, and then there's 15 EVs for all points. So they're separate point categories, but given for the same list of criteria. So in the 80 general points, 15 come from education and incentives, 10 come from planning, from the planning category, and 35 points are from the prerequisites, which are on the left-hand side. And 20 of the 80 general points can come from any category. So some of them are more specific, saying you must have them in these areas. Some of them you can pick from anywhere. In addition, you have to do 15 EVs for all points. And that is, you can select that from all of the different areas within the program. The four prerequisites that we have are really just selected based on just being the most basic. Everybody should have these types of actions completed before getting a Charging Smart designation. So review your zoning requirements, identify any barriers, adopt a standard EV infrastructure permit application process. Just what's your process going to be? How are you going to make sure that things happen quickly? Developing a charging infrastructure permitting checklist. And what that means is somewhere publicly available, people know exactly what needs to happen in order to get their infrastructure or permit done through your systems. And then the last one, meet with utilities to discuss EV collaboration opportunities. Just all you have to do is meet. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So your initial steps, I think Grace touched on these a little bit, but she started with the commitment letter. Even before that, you could have this consultation call. So she gave you her information, you would connect with her, she would walk through in a little more detail what's available, listen to you, what are your goals, what do you know already, what have you done already? And you would do this commitment letter, then you take this, what we call a self-assessment. That self-assessment just helps you understand where you are, as well as our team understand where you are, what your goals are, what you're looking forward to doing. And then Grace will take the information that she's got from you in your consultation call, as well as through the self-assessment, and put together a scorecard. That scorecard has all of the best practices that are available, the criteria, and she will help you set up a plan of these are the things that you're going to do based on what you've said, and then rank where are you in the process of completing them and submitting the documentation. So you'll review the plan that's in the scorecard, but you'll come back to that scorecard frequently to check your progress, submit your progress, your documentation as you go through, and move on from there. So again, the very first step, call Grace, and she'll walk you through the rest of this. But it's a I wouldn't say it's an easy process, but it's a well thought out process, and we are here to help you make sure that you get what you need to get ready for EVs. We do have a website. It's chargingsmart.org. Oh, and I do have a SoulSmart slide because we do. You're fine. You can go to that next slide. The SoulSmart slide is just because we do cross promote the two programs. So here's SoulSmart. I think a lot of you have already had it. If you don't have it and you think you're interested, you can visit soulsmart.org, but don't do it till after you've got your Charging Smart designation. And if I were on a SoulSmart call, I might flip that language around, but both really great programs. So that's the SoulSmart slide, but you can go ahead to the next slide. Oh, and I'm done. There we go. I always have more to say, but happy to take questions later after we hear from Ms. Tracy. But I have to say, I'm so excited about listening to the City of Brighton because they were within this cohort, the very first commitment letter that we got. So you are listening to the leading edge right here, right now. So really glad to be here with that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I'm so excited to be here today. As Teresa just mentioned, my name is Tracy McLean. I am the Sustainability Coordinator for the City of Brighton. So I'm going to just take you through a short presentation that's just going to kind of outline our journey to becoming the inaugural municipality to participate in the Charging Smart program. Next slide. All right, so the agenda for today, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the City of Brighton, kind of give you an overview of our demographics and kind of the current state of electric vehicles in the City of Brighton. I'm also going to talk to you a little bit about what led us to the decision that we wanted to participate in the Charging Smart program and just some of the things that the program offers that we believe are going to be particularly beneficial for us. Then I will review some desired outcomes, what we're hoping to achieve from our participation in the program. And then I will turn it back over to Bonnie for any questions that you might have. Next slide, please. All right, so if you look on the lower left-hand side of this slide, you'll see a little red star marking where Brighton is on this map. So we are 20 minutes north of, or 20 miles north rather, of downtown Denver. We are 20 minutes from Denver International Airport, and we are 30 minutes east of Boulder. So we are pretty centrally located, and we are primed for increase in our population, which is exactly what we saw in the last 20 years. So in the last 20 years, our population literally doubled. So as of 2023, we have 43,518 residents. Not too long ago, probably about 15 years ago, and earlier than that even, the main industry in Brighton was agriculture. But since then, we do have quite a diverse economy. It includes energy, healthcare, hospitality, higher education, and of course, public administration, which is where I work in City Hall. So out of those 43,518 residents that live within the city, only 2,993 of those residents live and work in the city. And the reason why that's an important statistic is because it tells you that we are a commuter city. So all of the other residents are either commuting into the city for work and they live in another city, or they live within the City of Brighton and they're commuting out for work. So we have a lot of transportation coming in and out of the city on a daily basis. And of all of those commuters, 79% of that transportation is drive alone, so just one person per vehicle. Next slide. Another thing that I wanted to mention is we recently on May 28th actually have adopted our first sustainability plan, which I'm pretty excited about. So there are goals and projects within that sustainability plan that this Charging Smart program are going to help us accomplish. So the first goal that we have is to reduce vehicle miles traveled for passenger and fleet internal combustion engine vehicles. So we're just trying to take some of those internal combustion engine vehicles off of the road and promote micro mobility and multimodal transportation, different forms of active transportation, and of course, increasing the number of electric vehicles on the road. Next measurable goal included in the plan is to monitor and reduce citywide greenhouse gas emissions and co-pollutants. Electrification is obviously one of the strongest tools that we have for that. We also have a project in the plan to increase the number of electric vehicle charging stations at city facilities and expand our electric and hybrid fleet vehicle pilot program. So we're really trying to increase the number of hybrid and electric vehicles in our fleet and build out the infrastructure to support that. Next project, we have to develop a citywide electric vehicle strategy. And then we also want to look for opportunities to update the land use and development and building codes so that we can promote electric vehicle usage and building electrification. Next slide. So for anyone joining us on this call that works for a local government, some of these EV stumbling blocks probably look pretty familiar to you. I'm sure that other cities have run into some of these, but these are just, some of the challenges that we have faced at the City of Brighton in our journey towards EV readiness. So the first one that I have here is public education and perception. So there is some skepticism regarding electric vehicle feasibility within the community, really just kind of stemming from lack of education about electric vehicles. There's a lack of educational and engagement opportunities. So I've been in this role for about 1.5 years, and I have recently hosted, with the help of Drive Clean Colorado, some electric vehicle showcases and ride and drives that have been really successful in building that early momentum. But we will need to continue to place focus on education and engagement throughout our EV readiness journey. And there's a lot of information and concerns amongst residents that are kind of circulating. Some of those things are, for example, overloading the grid by investing more in vehicle electrification and the material mining for the batteries. With staff, we also have kind of sometimes a similar resistance. This is a direct quote from one of our staff members. They said that electrification is really kind of a chicken or an egg type scenario. Where do we start? Do we start with increasing infrastructure? Do we start with buying more electric vehicles? Where do we start the process? There's a lack of formal training as well. I am a team of one person in the sustainability department, so my ability to be able to train staff and kind of take advantage of some of these educational opportunities is obviously limited. There are a lot of grants out there right now and a lot of opportunities for funding, but staff is also concerned about their capacity to manage those grants. And even though I'm fully aware of some of those legislative trends that we already talked about at the state and federal level, staff kind of lacks some basic information about that as well. But I do, like to remind them that electric vehicles are here to stay, and it is going to be an ongoing trend into the future, especially in the state of Colorado. And then, finally, we are lacking some basic EV infrastructure. We only have 8 publicly available EV charging stations within city limits right now, and I believe we only have 2 EV charging stations for our fleet. I just found out today we actually have 2. Sorry, I put that in the presentation, but confirmed today that we have 2. We currently don't have any electric vehicles in our fleet. We only have hybrids, so that's definitely a big area of opportunity for us. And we have talked about defaulting to hybrid and electric vehicles for vehicles that are due to be replaced on our maintenance cycle, but we don't currently have any formal policies in place to do that. Next slide. So that is where the Charging Smart program came into focus for us. So the things that I think are going to be really helpful for us going forward in terms of participating in this program include the fact that it removes obstacles to improve EV readiness. So their best practices and assisting with the planning process is, exactly what we need to really be proactive about our EV readiness strategy. As Teresa already talked about earlier, this is a designation system similar to SolSmart. We actually participate in SolSmart as well. And we have a gold designation through SolSmart, and it has been particularly helpful for us. We have anywhere from 200 to 400 solar installations per year. So these designation programs are kind of tried and true for the City of Brighton. So very excited that we have one available for EV readiness now. It also relieves that burden of soft costs associated with EV readiness. So EV readiness can be a really expensive thing because you're investing in, charging infrastructure and electric vehicles. So it really kind of helps, to take some of the burden off of those soft costs by updating zoning and permitting processes. And it also provides technical assistance. As I mentioned before, I am a team of one person, so it is really great to be able to have industry expertise that I can rely on to help us through some of these obstacles. Next slide. So some of the things that we are hoping to accomplish with our participation in this program include increasing that public awareness and support. So really looking for those opportunities for engagement and getting stakeholders at all levels involved. And of course, making progress on our sustainability plan goals and being able to present that to council. We would like to achieve our bronze designation within the first year. And in fact, I've been kind of looking through all of the designations and am kind of hoping to start working on silver and maybe even some of those gold requirements as well by the end of 2025. Also hoping that this program is really going to help us to get people from all levels involved, to get staff and leadership and council and external partners involved, since it is exposing us to this really big network of EV professionals. We also want to, of course, increase our charging station infrastructure. We do have a little bit of money in our 5-year CIP right now for charging structure for our city facilities, but would also like to, increase that charging station infrastructure for publicly accessible EV charging stations. And then finally, we want to develop a proactive long-term EV strategy that is going to be able to carry us through the next 5 years, so we can really take advantage of a lot of the funding that's available right now at the state level and this program, so that we can ensure that if there are any regulations in the pipeline, that we're ready for those and we can remain compliant. Next slide. If you would like to get in touch with me and talk a little bit more about our journey, please feel free. That is my email address and the sustainability landing page on the city's website. So once again, I would like to thank Drive Clean Colorado for inviting me to speak on this webinar, and I'll turn it back over to Bonnie for questions.
That was wonderful. Thanks, Tracy. I learned things I didn't know in this process, and I hope you all did as well. Are there any questions that any of our attendees here, that any of you have for our speakers?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
Hi, Lucy. Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, awesome presentations. I'm kind of wondering, does this program work best for communities that are just now getting started or communities that have been doing EV readiness planning for years?
That's a great question. Thanks, Lacey. I personally think that this program works for everybody. So I think if you are a community that doesn't know anything about EVs, you don't know the different types of charging ports, etc., you can jump in and start with this program, and we will start with the basics. That bronze designation is fairly, just basic background kind of information. If you've done a lot and you need some specific help with particular things, we'll help you with the designation, submission of what you've already done, and then set a path forward for those things that are a lot more in depth. So really, we plan for this type of program to be kind of iterative. So if you're a program coming in with no knowledge, you get the bronze, and then 2 years from now, you're like, okay, we're ready for the next step. You go for silver, maybe you go for gold after that, and continue to grow on. But we do provide training and technical assistance for all levels for communities.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's helpful to know because I definitely work with communities that are on both sides of the spectrum, pretty extreme sides of the spectrum. So great answer. Thank you.
I wanted to ask Matthew Harris. You mentioned in the chat that you work with IREC, you're not working on the Charging Smart program, but you live in Denver. I was really, the idea of being a citizen and wanting to be, engaged in this, I would love to hear from our speakers. Is there a role for citizens, or is there an opportunity, for engagement at all, or how would William go about that? Or I'm sorry, Matthew, go about that?
I can give a start. I think there's always a role for citizens to be involved in their local government and talk to them and say, you know, we need more EVs and bring forward. I've heard of this program. That's great. I think that's true if it's a citizen, and of course Matthew, I know, is connected to everybody, so you can certainly do that for the city of Denver. But I think that it's valuable also coming from industry. If there are some industry folks on here working with local governments, to also say there are programs that can help you with the work that you're doing. I think that's always helpful, just to bring it to somebody's attention. Maybe Tracy will say otherwise if she has 17,000 people telling her all the time what she should be doing. but anything you can do to, you know, shed light in a helpful way, I think is a good thing.
Yeah, I definitely have something to say about that. About that. I think I've invested a lot in community engagement in my role, and I honestly don't think that I would be as successful in my role had it not been for the fact that I have invested so much in getting residents involved in the work that I'm doing. I think, you know, at the local government level, it can be a little bit scary and intimidating, and there can be risk involved in getting residents engaged in your projects. But I think what I found is that a lot of resistance that comes from residents is just, you know, coming from a place of not pardon me, not having the knowledge and education about what you're working on. If you provide educational opportunities to residents and kind of get them involved and give them the information, then their support will go a really long way, especially if you, like I said, work for local government and you have an elected body. They really want to know how residents feel about the work that you're doing. So getting resident support is very important.
Steve, did you want to ask your question? Steve Trowbridge.
Hi there. Yeah, just a quick question. How does Charging Smart help city staff interact with city councils regarding EVs?
I can oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Well, I think I kind of understand your question. So you're just mainly asking kind of what tools it provides you with, so that, you know, when you're presenting about EVs to council, it kind of helps facilitate the conversation.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I think with, you know, council, you know, what they're looking for is that educational component. So, you know, they have a lot of the same questions that residents do. Like I had mentioned in my presentation, for them, they're kind of at that level where they're asking, you know, how do we start this process? What are the best steps for us to take? They want to see, you know, tried and true, systematic process, you know, to kind of help you get to EV readiness. So this program provides you with all of those tools that you need in order to inform council of the best way to go about EV readiness. I'm not sure if that answered your question or not. I think also with local with councils, it's relational. So you kind of have to build trust and get them involved in the process. A lot of the projects I've worked on, I have scheduled educational sessions with council to get their feedback so that I can implement their feedback into final recommendations. So I think that that could also be a helpful tool in getting them on board with your EV readiness strategy.
I agree with everything that Tracy said. I think to only add to that, I think on a national level, as the program continues to really become become fuller, we will have more webinars, we'll have more trainings available, et cetera. So certainly if you are on a staff and you are trying to promote ideas to City Council, having those resources available for them will be helpful as well.
All right, one more question. Maddie, I see you're in the chat. Do you want to ask that one?
Yeah, I was just curious if you could share with everyone on today the typical timeline of the designation process from start to finish.
Okay, I'm going to take that. I think I've shared that with a couple folks, but it does vary tremendously. I think once you have your commitment letter in, and you've done the self-assessment, which can take some time. If you're just starting out, it's a fairly easy thing because you can just mark, we don't have that yet, we don't have that yet, we don't have that yet. So so it's actually easier for the communities that haven't done anything. But regardless, that you do the self-assessment, you get the commitment letter, and sometimes getting that commitment letter signature is, you have to kind of work through the internal workings of your local government. Once that happens, if you're going for bronze, that fairly simple one, we estimate that takes maybe 3 to 6 months to get those best practices fully adopted if you're starting from ground zero, and documented and submitted for application. If you're going for gold and starting from ground zero, there are things like, if you have barriers in your zoning ordinances that prevent the DC2 fast chargers being put in place, then you have to change your ordinance, and that's going to take a lot more time, right? So it depends on what changes you need to make to really make sure that you're coming up to best practices. If you're just documenting them, it's going to be faster. If you really have to change ordinances, et cetera, it's going to be a longer process. So it depends on where you're starting, how far you think you want to go. And as I said, we see it as being iterative. And so if you really have a lot of changes that have to happen, going for bronze first, taking those steps, and then, resetting, seeing how you're doing, maybe getting the ordinance changes, started, and then going for silver once you have that done, you can just continue to move along.
Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, speakers. We are at our time today. I do see a question from Jim Burness from National Car Charging about municipalities being familiar with the idea of using the state contract or state bid for the cooperative buying programs. I think, Jim, that would be something that as we're working with these communities through this process, that we would make sure that they're aware of that along the way if they're not already. So that's certainly part of what we're trying to promote here. So thank you all for being here. And if you have any questions, please reach out. I know that we'll follow up with a video and, the slides and any other information here, some links and so forth. So watch for that in your email, and have a great afternoon. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.